Hello my friends, my name is JustVoxPop and today I'll be taking you through 10 steps to improving your Genshin Impact account. Number 1. Change your world level. If you're struggling to hit those big numbers in Genshin Impact and it's taking a long time and a lot of food just to survive battles, one of the first things you want to look at is your world level. As your world level increases, so do the levels of world bosses and enemies in the overworld. If you struggle to farm the materials and artifacts you need to improve your characters, it's going to take a lot longer to see those improvements and it's going to feel a lot worse to play the game. Starting from Adventure Rank 40, you advance to World Level 5. Just like the advancements from World Level 0 to World Level 1 and World Level 2 to World Level 3, this world level increase is not gated by an Ascension quest. This can mean if you've been putting off Ascension Quest 2, you might end up hitting Adventure Rank 40 with your thick backlog of adventure experience, and suddenly the enemies in the overworld have gone from level 51 to level 73. This can put a real delay in your progression if you haven't built your teams well enough. If you find yourself struggling to keep up with enemies or that farming has become too difficult for the game to be enjoyable, simply open your Paimon menu and click the I next to your world level to lower it by 1. If you were world level 5 and seeing enemies at level 73, they will drop down to level 62, which should be much more manageable. You can only drop your world level by 1 at any time, and you must wait 24 hours to revert this change. I will say, for any player who is capable of keeping up with the world level increase, it is not beneficial for you to keep your world level lower than it needs to be. You will be missing out on higher drop rates on gems and 5-star artifacts from world bosses and talent materials from weekly bosses. Number 2. Plan your teams. Now that you can comfortably farm at whichever world level suits you best, it's time to start really putting some thought into your teams. Unfortunately, if you want to start clearing higher level content in the Spiral Abyss, you're going to have to accept that some characters are probably just not a good fit for every team, and having a team of your favorite waifus and husbandos isn't necessarily going to be the way forward. When building a team in Genshin Impact, you're going to want to think about the characters you use as your main damage source, the characters that will support your team through buffs, shielding or healing, the elemental reactions you want to trigger, and the elemental resonance you want for your team. Typically, your elemental resonance will come from a need to utilize a character of the same element as your primary damage dealer in order to generate elemental particles to charge their elemental burst. For example, I want to run a reverse vaporize Yanfei team. This team uses Yanfei as the primary DPS as she has little off-field utility. She needs to stay out in order to utilize her talents and do her rotation to hit those big numbers. In the supporting roles are Zhongli, Xingqiu, and Bennett. Zhongli's elemental skill creates a shield, which reduces the chance of Yanfei being interrupted during her rotation and reduces enemies' elemental and physical resistance by 20% in a small AoE. His burst provides a large AoE petrification, which serves as a great form of crowd control as well. Xingqiu provides his elemental skill and burst to apply a Hydro Aura to enemies which allow Yanfei to trigger Reverse Vaporize, the application of Pyro to a Hydro Aura as opposed to Hydro to a Pyro Aura for normal Vaporize, which adds a damage multiplier of 1.5 to the attack which triggers the reaction. Bennett provides his Elemental Burst, which creates a large AoE field that heals characters within it up to 70% of their max HP. Any characters above 70% HP gain an attack bonus based on Bennett's base attack. Bennett is also a Pyro character, which allows for Pyro resonance on the team, granting a 40% reduction to the duration any character on my team is affected by Cryo and increases the attack of every team member by 25%. Bennett will also generate Pyro elemental particles when he hits an enemy with his elemental skill, allowing me to swap to Yanfei before they are gathered in order to charge her elemental burst faster. From this, you can see how every other character on the team supports Yanfei's ability to do a bunch of damage and keep her on the field. If you really need help with ideas of which characters work best together, look to the various character mains subreddits, the Kuoqing mains theory crafting guys, or if you want my completely non-expert input, leave a comment below. Number 3. Weapons. Now that we've decided on our main team and we know how it works, we'll look to start gearing these characters up. Each weapon has a base amount of attack that it gives the wielder, then a secondary stat, and then a passive. Each character is going to prioritize a different secondary stat and passive depending on their role and their personal scalings. Let's take a look at our reverse vape team. Yanfei is the main DPS of my team and all of her abilities scale from her attack stat, so we should ideally give her a weapon with high base attack. Yanfei's 4th Ascension talent means that every crit she lands will deal an extra instance of pyro damage equal to 80% of her attack, so we want to make sure Yanfei can crit as much as possible. This should mean that the Solar Pearl with its crit chance substat would be the best pick from what I have. However, Solar Pearl's passive does not benefit Yanfei too well as it doesn't buff her charged attack damage. The Wid Sith offers a potential of 3 different passives which all benefit Yanfei, some more than others, and has a crit damage substat, meaning we can then supplement the lack of crit chance on the weapon with artifact stats. Bennett will prioritize a weapon with the highest base attack because his elemental burst creates a field which buffs your active party member when they are above 70% HP based on his base attack. The only way to increase Bennett's base attack is by leveling him and giving him a weapon. As my shield bot, Geodaddy Chongli favors the surprising 3-star choice of Black Tassel, as it has HP percent as the secondary stat, buffing his shielding capabilities even more. For Xingqiu, I have a very limited pool of weapons to choose from. Prior to crafting the Amanoma Kageuchi, I was using Skyrider Sword because of the energy recharge substat. This was to make sure he had his elemental burst up more often and so that I could invest his artifact stats elsewhere. These are obviously not the only ways to build these characters, but hopefully this gets you thinking about how each character works in a team and how best to utilize them. If you want to learn more about best in slot weapon rankings, I recommend, once again, using Quirching Main's guides to find out which weapon in your available pool will have the best result for your character. Number 4. Weapon Experience. While we're talking about weapons, let's talk about how to level them. I touched on this briefly in my previous video, but if you want to level your weapons, you've got to make sure you've got enough weapon enhancement ore to fund them. You can turn your iron ore, star silver, white iron chunks, crystal chunks, and amethyst lumps into enhancement ore, fine enhancement ore, and mystic enhancement ore. The basic enhancement ore from iron ore gives 400 weapon experience when used to enhance your weapon. Fine enhancement ore from star silver and white iron chunks gives 2000 weapon experience, and mystic enhancement ore from crystal chunks and amethyst lumps gives 10,000 weapon experience. You can craft a maximum of 300,000 weapon experience at a blacksmith daily, or the equivalent of 30 mystic enhancement ore. To take a 3-star weapon from level 1 to level 90, it will cost 3,988,200 weapon experience, or 399 mystic enhancement ore. For a 4-star weapon, that goes up to 6,042,650 weapon experience, or 605 mystic enhancement ore. And for a 5-star weapon, it'll cost 9,064,450 weapon experience, or 907 mystic enhancement ore. This means that, not counting other sources of weapon experience from daily rewards, chests, battle pass, etc., it will take 13 days, 21 days, and 31 days of hitting this 300,000 weapon experience cap of the blacksmith for a 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star weapon to go from level 1 to 90 respectively. There are some great guides with detailed routes that can net you around 200 crystal chunks in 10 to 15 minutes, especially if you've unlocked the Chasm underground mines, and you'll need 120 per day to hit the 300,000 cap. So it's time to put on your favorite songs to zone out to and start mining. You should always make sure that your weapons are at the maximum possible level, as they are the easiest thing to level. You can always farm lower level domains for the ascension materials required and then trade up at the alchemy table at a ratio of 3 to 1 for the next tier. It might take longer, but it's never impossible. Number 5. Artifacts. Alright, let's get down to business with artifacts. If character levels and weapons are the bread of your sandwich, then artifacts are all of the tasty fillings. There are 5 types of artifacts: Flower of Life, Plume of Death, Sands of Aeon, Goblet of Eonothem, and Circlet of Logos. Each artifact has a main stat, up to 4 substats, and a set bonus. Equipping your character with 2 or 4 artifacts of a matching set will give you access to the corresponding set bonus, but we'll get to that later. Having good main stats and substats on your artifacts outweighs the buffs provided by set bonuses, and if you want to improve your team efficiently, you should just equip whichever artifacts provide you with the stats that you need before you start working towards set bonuses. Definitely do not start farming for set bonuses before you have access to 5-star artifact domains. It's a waste of resin that you could be spending on ley lines, talent domains, weapon domains, and bosses. The Flower of Life and Plume of Death will always provide flat HP and flat attack bonuses respectively as their main stat. Sands of Aeon can have HP %, attack %, defense %, elemental mastery, or energy recharge as a main stat. The Goblet of Aeonothem can have the same along with elemental damage bonus and physical damage bonus, and the Circlet of Logos can have the first 4 along with crit rate %, crit damage %, and healing bonus. As I mentioned before, each character will scale with a different stat, and this should be your primary goal for your character if the ability scaling is beneficial to your team. Zhongli's shield gets stronger based on his max HP, so I'll be giving him HP main stats Sands, Goblet, and Circlet, and then trying to get as many HP substats on the rest. Yanfei as my main DPS will use an attack Sands, pyro damage bonus Goblet, and crit rate Circlet to make up for the lack of crit rate on her weapon. I'll then be trying to optimize the balance of both crit rate and crit damage, attack, elemental mastery, and energy recharge substats. It just so happens that I can use 4 pieces of the Wanderer's Troop set for the additional set bonus, but I have a lot of work to do before these pieces are optimized. As for Bennett, his elemental bursts healing per second scales with his max HP, but the rest of his kit scales with attack, crit rate, crit damage, and pyro damage. I'll be focusing on giving him as much HP and energy recharge as possible to make sure his elemental burst is available more often and is more useful. Later on, I'll probably try and give him a few more offensive stats, as the hardest content in this game is usually a timed DPS check. If the enemy is already dead, it can't damage you. Huge brain moves. Bennett is the exception to the rule about set bonuses in this case, as the synergy from using his elemental burst along with the 4-piece bonus from Noblesse Oblige is too good to pass up, as I'm using him primarily as a buff for my team. Xingqiu as an off-field DPS will be built in the same way as Yanfei, prioritizing a good balance of attack, crit rate, and crit damage, preferably at a 1:2 ratio, as well as a hydro damage bonus Goblet. If I cannot find an appropriate amount of energy recharge substats to make up for his large energy requirement for his elemental burst, I may use an energy recharge Sands to align burst windows a little better with the rest of the team. Then, once I have a full set of Emblem of Severed Fate, I'll swap that out for an attack % Sands, as the set bonus will make up for the lost energy recharge. Xingqiu's first Ascension talent gives healing based on his max HP, but I already have Bennett as my healer, and so this scaling is ignored in favor of more offensive stats. Again, I refer you to Keqing mains if you need help figuring out stat priorities for your characters. However, you can also use the Attribute Reference button at the top right of the screen to see what main stat other active players are using on their artifacts. When leveling an artifact, you will either gain a 4th substat at level 4, or, if a 4th substat already exists on an artifact, a bonus increase to 1 substat will be applied at every 4 levels. 3-star artifacts have a level cap of 12, 4-star artifacts have a level cap of 16, and 5-star artifacts have a level cap of 20. So rather than going all in on a 4-star artifact, it's probably better to wait to get a 5-star artifact with similar or better base stats to invest into. You will only receive 80% of the experience value initially invested back when using a leveled artifact as fodder for another artifact. The upside is that using a leveled artifact will cost the same amount of Mora as an unleveled artifact. If you find an artifact with a good main stat and at least 2 ideal substats, I'd recommend locking that piece to make sure it doesn't get mixed up when using the auto-add function while leveling your artifacts, and it'll be a lot easier to find again when you start farming properly. You can also use the filter buttons at the bottom of the artifact screen to sort your artifacts by the set they came from and also up to 2 stats. Once you're set up and ready to start farming artifact domains regularly at the highest level, you can start turning all of your original resin into condensed resin to start trying to get good artifacts from a character's optimal set for the set bonus. It's not worth swapping out a good offset artifact for a bad set piece, as the set bonus will not usually provide enough additional benefits to compensate for the lost stats. You'll probably want to keep your Goblet as your 5th flexible slot, as the chance of getting a relevant elemental damage bonus main stat is 5%. Add the need for good substats to that, and the chances of ever getting a good set-piece Goblet is even lower. If you run out of fodder artifacts and need more artifact experience, you can buy up to 20 Sanctifying Unction and 5 Sanctifying Essence from Tubby in the Serenitea Pot per week for 90 and 360 realm currency respectively. Sanctifying Unction gives 2,500 artifact experience, and Sanctifying Essence gives 10,000 artifact experience, making both of these purchases equal in value. There are also guides to the artifact investigation routes that you can farm every 24 hours for around 60,000 artifact experience per day, which is enough to take a 5-star artifact to level 20 in about 5 days, but you should be getting a decent amount of fodder artifacts just from playing the game. Number 6. Talents. So we've covered your bread and butter and your tasty fillings. What's missing? That's right, a plate. If anybody in the comments is about to tell me they don't use a plate when they eat a sandwich, I would like to wish you a very happy crumbs in your bed. There are 3 combat talents which can have their levels increased. These pertain to a character's normal, charged and plunging attacks, their elemental skill, and their elemental burst. Each level you put into these talents will increase that ability's effectiveness, damage, scaling, or duration by a certain amount. The level cap of these combat talents is determined by the character's current ascension. At 2nd ascension, a combat talent can be taken to level 2, at 3rd ascension it can be taken to level 4, at 4th ascension it can be taken to level 6, at 5th ascension it can be taken to level 8, and finally at ascension 6 you can take a character's combat talents to level 10, also known as crowning. The cost of leveling these combat talents initially are talent books, overworld mob drops, and Mora, all of which are easily obtained. Your talent books can be farmed from domains on certain days. You'll need 3 2-star talent books and 21 3-star talent books to take a combat talent from level 1 to level 6, as well as 6 1-star mob drops and 21 2-star mob drops. Doing this will also cost 122,500 Mora. Just like weapon ascension materials, you can trade up your talent books at an alchemy table at a ratio of 3:1 for the next tier, so you will always be able to reach at least level 6 in your combat talents. After hitting level 6 in your combat talents, it's time to start prioritizing which talents you want to take higher, as it becomes significantly harder to increase their levels due to the requirement of weekly boss materials. These items only drop from weekly bosses with a recommended party level of 70 or higher, or world level 5 or higher from the Dominator of Wolves challenge. Each weekly boss has 3 potential material drops, and doing the challenge at a recommended party level 70 will award you with 1 guaranteed drop. Level 80 will award you with 1 guaranteed drop and roughly 50% chance of a second, and level 90 will award 2 guaranteed drops with roughly 10% chance of a third. You cannot choose which materials you get from these weekly bosses, so you best get down on your knees and start praying to RNGesus to give you what you need. There is a saving grace, however. Dream Solvent has an approximate 33% chance to drop from weekly bosses, and it can be used at an alchemy table in the Convert tab to transform one material from a weekly boss into another material from the same weekly boss, meaning your farming for the week may not have been in vain. You will need a total of 6 of one specific weekly boss material to take a combat talent from level 6 to level 10, as well as 38 4-star talent books, 31 3-star mob drops, 1,530,000 Mora, and 1 Crown of Insight. As of the making of this video, there are currently only 10 Crowns of Insight that you can obtain through normal gameplay. 1 can be obtained by upgrading the Frostbearing Tree in Dragonspine, 5 can be obtained from upgrading the Sacred Sakura on Narukami Island in Inazuma, 1 can be obtained by upgrading the Lumenstone Adjuvant to level 4 in the Chasm Underground Mines, and 3 can be obtained from upgrading the Tree of Dreams in Sumeru. Since the game's inception, another 17 crowns have been made available as rewards for events for a total of 27 possible crowns. Leveling a character's talent to level 10 is a luxury, not a requirement, so spend your crowns however you see fit. If you would like to know what your talent priorities should be, well, you guessed it, Quirching Mains. Or you can see the talent upgrade recommendations by clicking the button in the top right. Number 7. The Gacha. Using your Primo Gems and Intertwined Fates at every possible opportunity you get is half the fun of a gacha game, but it might also be actively hurting your account. Having the newest 5-star character, or finally getting your hands on an older 5-star character through a rerun banner might sound incredibly appealing, but if you're already spread thin on resources, adding another character to your roster isn't going to do much if you can't build them right or if you don't have good synergy for them. Fear of missing out is a powerful motivator, and it can be really tempting to spend your 20 or 30 pulls worth of Primo Gems and Fates, even though you're nowhere near pity, when you see social media flooded with how a new character is OP. But rather than ignoring your current characters, it's time to think about how you can use your wishes wisely to get the most out of them. If the characters in your team are low constellations, then waiting for a banner that they feature on as a rate-up character might be beneficial for you. Each constellation will buff a character's damage or utility greatly, and Constellation 3 and 5 increase the combat talent level of their elemental skill and elemental burst by 3. In the same vein, it might be worth waiting for a rate-up banner of a 4-star weapon that will benefit a member of your team, like I should wait for a rate-up on Sacrificial Sword for Xingqiu, or a rate-up on Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds for Yanfei. Having duplicates of weapons allows you to refine that weapon, much like constellations, in order to boost the scalings of a weapon's passive ability. I know it's hard. I'm guilty of throwing my Primo Gems at every banner I see too, but it's for the best. Number 8. The Serenitea Pot. In your Serenitea Pot, you've got this lovable bundle of joy called Tubby. Talking to her will bring up this menu. Clicking on the Realm Depot shows you the Realm Treasures tab by default. Look at all of this stuff. Character Experience, Mystic Enhancement Ore, Mora, Artifact Experience, Transient Resin! This store refreshes weekly, and with a maximized Serenitea Pot, you can accumulate 30 realm currency per hour. That's 720 realm currency per day. That's 5,040 realm currency per week. Take off 200 to buy 2 furnishings from another player's teapot traveling salesman, and you've got 4,840 realm currency per week. That's enough to buy out not only the Transient Resin, but also the Hero's Wit, Mystic Enhancement Ore, or Mora, and still have 1,240 realm currency left over for something else. You get realm currency passively, and you're missing out on all of these potential rewards if you haven't yet reached Trust Rank 8 or 20,000 Adeptal Energy. So, it's time to punch some trees and craft some furnishings. In the Furnishings tab, you can buy up to 5 vials of Adeptal Speed per day for 10 realm currency a pop. If you're trying to maximize your teapot quickly, you should buy these every day as they will instantly complete a furnishing crafting timer. You should then buy as many furnishing blueprints as you can and craft one of each in order to receive the first time trust bonus, and then place them anywhere in your Serenitea Pot. We aren't worried about aesthetics for now, we just want to get as much Adeptal energy as we can in as short a time as possible. If you have more than 5 new furnishings you can create in a given day, use as many vials of Adeptal Speed as is required to leave a full queue of furnishings being created until the next day. Otherwise, save your vials for later when you start getting furnishing blueprints from other places. If you need wood, you can find a group of 11 trees which give the same type of wood and cycle through them. Each tree will give 3 wood, and then you can hit another 10 trees and come back to it to get 3 more wood. You can also log out and log back in to refresh your tree counters if you only have a small selection to work with. If you have an extreme excess of ore, you can also convert them into wood of your choosing at a rate of 3:1 for iron ore, 2:1 for white iron ore, and 1:1 for crystal chunks, amethyst lumps, and magical crystal chunks. For silk cloth, you can find silk flowers surrounding the southwestern plaza of Liyue Harbor or lining the roadside by Wangshuo Inn. For red dye, you can use sunsetias, carrots, or valberries. For yellow dye, you can use berries or core lapis. And for blue dye, you can use mint or wolf hooks. I needed a lot more red dye than I needed blue or yellow, so keep this in mind for farming purposes. Once you've reached 20,000 Adeptal Energy and Trust Rank 8, you might want to consider buying furnishing set blueprints that are favoured by certain characters. Once you have all of the furnishings required to make a set, you can place it in its entirety. The character that favours the set will then move locations from where you place them to stand by the set, and you'll receive a gift from them when you talk to them. The gift will be 20 Primo Gems, 20,000 Mora, and either 1 Elemental Gem Fragment or 2 3-star talent books relevant to the character, depending on which of the 2 favoured furnishing sets you've placed. Personally, I switched to a different realm layout for this purpose, as all of the furnishings you have crafted are available across all layouts. This means you'll always have one layout with 20,000 Adeptal Energy to keep your realm currency flowing at the maximum rate, and you can swap out to your furnishing set layout without disrupting the total Adeptal Energy of the other one. Then you can just place your companion, place their set, get their gift, and switch back to your maximized layout. Number 9. Mora and Chests. Mora makes the Genshin world go round. You need it to level your characters, your talents, your artifacts, and your weapons. You need it to convert materials at the alchemy table and forge enhancement ore at the blacksmith. You need it to buy cooking materials from the shop. You need to spend 500,000 of it per week for the battle pass. Mora is needed for everything. But how do you get it? The easiest method of making Mora is doing your daily commissions and visiting Catherine to claim your rewards. This will get you somewhere between 20,000 and 40,000 Mora per day. Next up is simply using the Masterless Stardust that you accumulate from wishing on banners to buy Mora from Paimon's bargains. You can get up to 300,000 Mora in exchange for 300 Stardust before having to pay 20 Stardust for 10,000 Mora after that. After that is farming the Blossom of Wealth leyline outcrops, which will get you between 12,000 and 60,000 Mora for 20 original resin depending on your world level. You can also trade in elemental sigils at the souvenir shop of a region's main city. In Mondstadt, you can get 96,000 Mora for 60 Animo sigils, and then, after buying the rest of the shop's inventory, 1,600 Mora for every 2 Animo sigils you trade in. In Liyue, you can get 192,000 Mora for 120 Geo sigils, and then 1,600 Mora for every 2 Geo sigils after clearing the rest of the shop. You can get 2,500,000 Mora for offering 1,250 Electro Sigils to the Sacred Sakura in Inazuma before unlocking the souvenir shop, where you can trade another 40 Electro Sigils for 200,000 Mora, and then 1 Electro Sigil for 3,000 Mora after obtaining everything else. At the time of publishing this video, you can only offer 1,050 Dendro Sigils to the Tree of Dreams in Sumeru for a total of 1,500,000 Mora, and the souvenir shop is currently locked, presumably until such a time as the Tree of Dreams can be completed. How do you get these elemental sigils? You can get them from offering elemental oculi to statues of the Seven in their respective regions, and also from chests in those regions. Chests drop elemental sigils based on the rarity of the chest. Common chests will drop 1 to 3 sigils, exquisite chests will drop 2 to 4 sigils, precious chests will drop 3 to 10 sigils, luxurious chests will drop 4 to 10 sigils, and chests from the Shrine of Depths will drop 10 sigils. Chests will be your primary source of Mora, weapon experience, character experience, talent books, and artifact fodder. You will get chests from quests and finishing non-repeatable domains, as well as finding plenty while you're exploring. If you want to find chests more efficiently, reach Reputation level 6 in Mondstadt and Liyue, or Reputation level 9 in Inazuma and Sumeru, in order to receive the blueprint for that region's treasure compass. Craft it at the blacksmith and equip it from the gadget menu. Then it's time to press that button every chance you get. If there isn't a chest nearby, the treasure compass will have a 5-second cooldown before you can press it again. If there is a chest nearby, then a trail of light will point you in the direction of the chest, and the treasure compass will have a cooldown of 30 seconds before you can use it again. Find as many chests as you can, turn in your sigils, and collect your rewards. Number 10. The Battle Pass. This one should go without saying, but if you want to get the most out of your account for the least effort possible, you should absolutely be trying to complete all 50 levels of the Battle Pass during each period. Completing all 50 levels of the Sojourner's Battle Pass, the free version, will award you with a total of 27 Adventurers Experience, 36 Heroes Wit, 96 Mystic Enhancement Ore, 720,000 Mora, 5 Fragile Resin, and 5 Acquaint Fate. This is the equivalent of almost 3 days worth of farming leyline outcrops for character experience and Mora, 3 days worth of Mystic Enhancement Ore crafting, plus Fragile Resin and wishes on the standard banner, so it's definitely not to be missed if you can help it. A Battle Pass period usually lasts for around 6 weeks and requires 50,000 Battle Pass experience to reach level 50. At the time of this video, the Battle Pass period has been adjusted to 5 weeks, and the requirement to reach level 50 is 45,000 Battle Pass experience for patch 3.0 to 3.2. Even if you only have a limited amount of time to play per day, you should definitely be trying to reach your weekly Battle Pass experience cap of 10,000 by doing your daily Battle Pass missions and most of your weekly Battle Pass missions. Most of these missions will end up being completed through normal gameplay progression, and your total Battle Pass experience can be supplemented with event-related Battle Pass missions in the This BP Period tab. Doing all 4 of your daily missions will net you with 645 BEP per day, or 4,515 BEP per week, and doing all of your weekly missions will net you 7,020 BEP. This means that you have 1,535 BEP that you can miss out on per week while still hitting your weekly BEP cap. It's important to note that ores gained from expeditions and investigation points count towards the daily Mine 10 items mission, and turning your original resin into condensed resin counts towards using a total of 150 original resin. Andreas, the Great Wolf of the North, will count towards your 10 boss enemies per week, as will Regis Vines in the Spiral Abyss. Each Spiral Abyss floor will count towards your 15 domains per week, as will doing a Trounce domain weekly boss. You do not need to claim the rewards from weekly bosses, world bosses, or leyline outcrops for them to count towards completion of these missions, which may come in handy if you're investing your resin elsewhere. Once you start adding in the additional this BP period missions, which typically reward 1500 BEP for event-based missions, it becomes very easy to complete the Battle Pass during any given period, even with small time investment. I can't tell you the right or wrong way to play this game because it's all down to you and how much time and effort that you really have to put in or want to put into this game. I can't tell you that your playstyle is wrong, I can't tell you that your builds are wrong because, you know, Genshin Impact is a single-player game. And unless you're using the multiplayer features, then the way that you play doesn't really impact anybody. As long as you're having fun, then that's really all that matters, isn't it? I hope that this guide has given you a good base foundation so that you can start thinking about how to proceed forward, especially if your resources are starting to get spread just a little bit thin. And if you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you. I put my whole ass into researching for this video, and it took a lot longer than I was anticipating. The word count has been longer than my bachelor's degree dissertation, so, I mean... If you think that I've missed anything, then, you know, as always, leave a comment below. And, you know, while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content. I do also stream over on twitch.tv/JustVoxPop, and, you know, we like to have a bit of a fun time over there, so if you want to click over there, drop a little follow, come and hang out with me sometime, I'd be very much obliged, and I'd love to have you there. And until next time, take care, stay safe, be good, and if you can't be good, be careful, and if you can't be careful, have fun.